So you're much welcome to today's class. My name is Simon. It's economics class. We are in topic 3. Topic 3, whereby we shall be talking about the issue to do with the consumer theory. We are done with topic 1. Topic 1 was all about the introduction to economics. We are done with topic 2. Topic 2 was demand, supply, and determination of equilibrium. And currently we are in topic 3, whereby we are talking about the issue to do with the consumer theory. And when you're talking about the consumer theory, this is just, we are trying to explain the consumer's behavior, or what the consumer will behave when faced with the problem of choices. You see? When he or she is faced with the problem of choices. And there are 2 theories that we shall extensively be talking about. That is the ordinalist theory, as well as cardinalist theory. The cardinalist theory, we shall all be talking about the utility. Utility, it is that satisfaction that somebody receives from the consumption of a certain commodity. Are you together? Yes. And that shall be the backbone of cardinalist theory. Then we shall have the ordinalist theory. Ordinalist theory, we shall be talking about the indifference curve. Indifference curve is just a locus of a point, whereby we shall be talking about giving us a similar satisfaction. Are you together? Yes, yes. So in our today's class, as I have said, we shall be talking about the consumer theory. In short, this is an attempt to explain the consumer's behavior when faced with the problem of choice. We shall be talking about that. This topic is all about the issue to do with why consumer behaves differently. In short, what we are talking about, different approaches when you have similar. It's like when you're talking about a situation whereby I give you 1,000, is it? And a friend of yours, I give them 1,000, or your neighbor, I give them 1,000. Very likely, both of you shall spend the money differently, is it? So this is what we shall be talking about. And in here, there are 2 theories. 2 theories that explains the consumer's theory, or the consumer's behavior, is it? Consumer's behavior. Number 1, we have the cardinalist theory. Cardinalist theory. Number 2, we have ordinalist theory. Together, you have the 2 the cardinalist theory as well as the ordinalist theory. But before we go there, we can have some definition of some of the terms that we shall be using. And number 1 is called utility. Utility is that satisfaction that is derived from the consumption of a certain commodity. Are you together? Satisfaction that is derived from consumption of a unit commodity. That's what we call the issue to do with the utility, that it is that satisfaction that is derived from a consumption of a unit commodity. Then the next thing that you should know is about the marginal utility. And when you're talking about the marginal utility, this is the additional satisfaction that is derived from consumption of an additional or an extra unit of a commodity. Right together. Yes, additional satisfaction, additional satisfaction that is derived from consumption of an additional unit of a commodity. Right together. Yes, those are the two things that we shall be extensively be using. That is the utility, the satisfaction that is derived from a consumption of a unit's commodity, as well as the issue to do with the marginal utility or the additional satisfaction that is derived from the consumption of an additional unit of a commodity. Let's start with the Cardinalist theory. Cardinalist theory. And in here, in the Cardinalist theory, the first thing that we should try to get are the assumptions. Assumptions of the Cardinalist theory, or which are some of these things that we usually assume for the practicability of the Cardinalist theory. And number one is that consumer is rational. Consumer is rational. Or in short, the consumer is trying to maximize his utility. Are you together? Yes. That the consumer, or the main purpose of the consumer consuming any product is to maximize his or her satisfaction. Are you together? The next one is that utility is measurable. Utility is measurable. And lastly, number three, is that the marginal utility is constant. The marginal utility is constant. Marginal utility is constant. Right together. These are the assumptions in the Cardinalist theory. That number one, the consumer is rational. The consumer is trying to maximize his or her own utility, or that satisfaction derived from the consumption of a particular commodity. Utility is measurable. It means that satisfaction, you can be able to measure it. Are you together? Yes. And lastly, marginal utility is constant. That the additional satisfaction, if the satisfaction is 2, then even if you are consuming any commodity, it shall always be 2. Those are the issue to do with the assumptions of the Cardinalist theory. Let's talk about the marginal utility. Marginal utility. And when you're talking about the issue to do with the marginal utility, how do you measure it? It's the first thing that you should know. And marginal utility is measured like this. That marginal utility is equals to the change in marginal utility is equals to the change of the total utility divided by the change of the quantity. Right together. So in a situation whereby, like for instance, in a layman's language, when you're talking about the issue to do with the marginal utility, you shall realize that additional satisfaction usually, yes, utility. When you consume a commodity, utility increases. Then all the way to a peak point, and then you start to do what? It starts to go down. It's like consuming food, is it? Or a soda, you see? Or pilau. Or when you pick the first bite and the second and the third, feeling good and good and good, is it? Until it reaches a point whereby now your satisfaction now starts to diminish, is it? You start to feel to be full, you see? Yes, yes. But immediately the additional satisfaction derived from the consumption of a certain commodity always decreases, is it? Like if you are to take 50 bites, then if you take one, then the additional satisfaction that you need is 49 bites, is it? Then if you take 10, the additional satisfaction that you shall need, they are what? They are 40, is it? And so forth and so forth and so forth. So in a scenario whereby we can pick something like probably a soda, and we measure it with its utility in respect to the marginal utility. If you consume 0, the utility will be 0, and the marginal utility shall be 0. If you consume 1, the utility will be 4, or your level of satisfaction, and this shall be 4. If you consume 2, the utility shall be 7, and probably the marginal utility will be 3. It will start to decrease. If you consume 3, this shall be probably 9, and this shall be 2. If you consume 4, this can be 10, this shall be 1. If you consume 5, now this becomes 9. You have now started to be full, and this becomes 0. If you consume 6, 8, negative, like that, is it? That's a mathematical approach of what we have just discussed onto that. So we shall be doing some of the questions onto the various mathematical approaches as we had discussed, that we will do them in our last classes, because it will assist you. See? Yes, yes. So the next thing that we should know is about the consumer's equilibrium into this theory, consumer equilibrium. And onto this theory, the consumer is at equilibrium whereby the marginal utility of X is equal to the price of X. Are you together? So if you're talking about a situation whereby we have one, or a simple economic perspective of one commodity, whereby we have one commodity called X, then consumer equilibrium will be a situation whereby you are feeling that to you, the satisfaction that is derived from this point, it is enough. It's like when you're saying like this, that you are planning to buy a shoe at 1,000, and then you went there and found it that it is already 1,000, the expected amount, is it? You shall automatically buy. So whereby there is that satisfaction of that commodity in respect to the price that you have, then there is the marginal utility of X. But assuming now we are talking about a situation whereby we have different commodities. Probably we have commodity what? Commodity X. We have commodity X, Y, all the way to N. The marginal utility will be 1, is it? Will be a whole number, whereby we shall say that the marginal utility shall be marginal utility of X divided by the price of X, plus marginal utility of Y divided by the price of Y, all the way to the marginal utility of the N divided by the price of N, that will be equals to 1. Actually, you can say that into this is equals to 1, whereby there is balance. There is balance of your satisfaction and the price that you have. And that's how the consumer equilibrium applies in a situation whereby we are talking about to do with the Cardinalist theory. Are you together? Yes. So unless you are satisfied, then that's when you will spend. Are we together? Yes. Think that's direct. Any question for our online student? Any question? Any question? Any question for our online student? So you have said that the consumer equilibrium on one commodity perspective, it's a situation whereby the marginal utility of X is equals to the price of X, which is equals to 1, or whereby there is some total, or there is different types of what? Types of commodity. It is marginal utility of X divided by the price of X plus marginal utility of Y divided by the price of Y, all the way to the end. You see, all the way to the end. Yes. And this concept of combining this is regarded to as equimarginal utility. Equimarginal utility. Equimarginal utility. Law of equimarginal utility. Law of equimarginal utility. Yes. And that's how you derive the consumer equilibrium at the Cardinalist theorem. Let's talk about derivation of demand curve. Derivation of demand curve. For the consumer. And we shall just draw it because you have already explained it. By assuming you have that unit utility here, and you have the issue to do with units consumed, then our marginal utility shall be like that. By this shall be our total utility. This positive is negative. Right together? Yes. This is whereby you are satisfied. You are full now. Yes, like that. Like that. Like that. The next thing that the examiner usually likes to explain or to ask is about the criticism of the cardinal utility, Cardinalist theory, or the challenges. Challenges of the Cardinalist theory. It is that number one is that the utility cannot be measured effectively. Utility can't be measured effectively. Yes, we cannot measure this satisfaction, is it? We cannot really measure the satisfaction that is derived from the consumption of a given commodity. Number two is that the marginal utility of money is not constant. Marginal utility of money is not constant. Yes, it can't be constant because you have different satisfaction in regard to the money. Then the rule does not apply everywhere. The rule does not apply everywhere. And lastly, number four is that the rule of diminishing marginal utility is based on introspection. The rule of diminishing marginal utility is based on introspection. These are the challenges of the cardinalist theory, whereby we are saying that we are assuming that the consumer is rational. This can be okay. Utility is measurable. Utility cannot be measured. That satisfaction from a given commodity cannot be really be measured. Then the marginal utility of money is not constant. That issue whereby you are being satisfied from you having money is not really constant. Then the rule does not apply everywhere. Like, even if we can give the example of monies, is that there is no situation whereby now the satisfaction of money will drop. Is it? There ain't a situation whereby it will arrive, and then you are saying that now I'm satisfied with the money. I don't want anything else. I'm okay. Is it? Yes, yes. And lastly, the rule of diminishing marginal utility is based on introspection, or the personal perspective of the people. Is it? Which is not really a quite good thing when you're talking about issue to do with this. So the next theory that we said is called Ordinalist theory. Ordinalist theory. Ordinalist. Ordinalist theory. And we said in here, we shall be using indifference curve. Is it? Indifference curve. So, another name of the ordinalist theory, we can also regard it as indifference curve approach. Indifference curve approach. Indifference curve approach. Whereby an indifference curve generally is locus of a point showing a combination of two commodities bringing similar satisfaction. You see? Are you together? And some of the assumptions here, in this is that the consumer is rational. Consumer is rational. And we said here that when you're talking about the issue to do with the consumer being rational, it's a situation whereby now the consumer is trying to maximize his or her utility. Yes? I will give you, is it? In a minute, is it? I shall discuss that, the next thing, is it? Yes, thank you. Then consumer can rank his preferences, consumer and rank his or her preferences. Is it? Consumer can rank his or her preferences. And last three is that utility depends on the unit consumed. Utility depends on the units consumed. And these are the assumptions in the ordinalist theory, more so referred as to the indifference curve approach. Don't confuse the ordinalist with the cardinalist. Here we are using the utilities. Here we are using the indifference curve. Is it? And the assumptions in the ordinalist theory is that the consumer is rational. Number two, we are talking about a situation whereby now the consumer can rank his or her own preferences, such that the consumer knows that if I have money, I can go and buy good X in expense of good Y. Then utility depends on the units consumed. We say that utility, it's the satisfaction that is derived from the consumption of a unit's commodity, meaning that the utility will increase with increase of the consumption of a certain commodity. Right together. So if I consume more than you, or if you consume more than me, the one who will have consumed more will have a greater level of utility. So let's talk about the indifference curve. Is it indifference curve? Indifference curve. And I said it's just a locus of a point representing a combination of two goods that yields the same utility. It is a locus of a point. It is a locus of a point. A locus of a point that shows combination of two goods that yields similar or same utility. Together, it is a locus of a point that shows combination of two goods that yield similar or same utility. All together. In short, it's like this. You have commodity X and commodity Y, or the diagrammatical representation of an indifference curve is this. We have commodity Y onto the Y-axis and commodity X in the X-axis. The indifference curves looks like that. Right together. The indifference curves looks like that. Meaning we can have some of the characteristics of indifference curves. Is it? What do you see with it? Okay, I may not be so good in drawing, but what do you see in here? And number one is that they are convex to the origin. Is it? They do not what? They do not intersect. You see? They have a negative slope. Is it? Yes. Let me cross-check here. One is that they do not intersect. They do not intersect. So when you are drawing, when you shall be drawing the indifference curve, kindly don't make them intersect one another. Are you together? Yes, yes. If there shall be a situation whereby you are drawing this and then you intersect like that, that's not indifference curve, and you shall have zero. Is it? Number two is that they have a negative slope. They have a negative slope. Of course, they have a negative slope. Number three is that they are convex to the origin. They are convex. Or they are convex to the origin. You can see the convex nature, is it? They are convex to the origin. The next one is that they have the indifference curve. They have the level of satisfaction. The higher the indifference curve, the higher the indifference curve, the higher the satisfaction. Meaning what? Meaning that assuming we have this A, B, C, D. Indifference curve D have the highest satisfaction than all the others. The last three, number 5, is that they are parallel to one another. They are parallel. They are parallel. They are parallel to each other. To each other. And that's why they do not intersect, is it? And last 3, you say that indifference curve never touches the axis. The indifference curve never touches the axis. The indifference curve never touches the axis, be it onto the y-axis or the y-axis, x or y. So there is nothing like this that you shall say that that's an indifference curve or such. Are you together? Yes. So those are the properties. And the examiner usually loves to ask these properties, that which are the properties of the indifference curve. They do not intersect. That's number 1. They have a negative slope automatically. They will have a negative slope, because if we try to get the slope of a curve, do you remember what we are doing? High school. Tunafanya nini? Tunachora, is it? If we are trying to find the gradient of this, we shall draw a straight line there, is it? Then we try to do what? To plot, is it? Yes. Gradient was the change in? Thank you. Change of y over change in x. So automatically this will give us a negative slope. Why? Because you're saying that it's convex. Then it's convex to the origin, is it? Then the next one is the higher the indifference curve, the higher the satisfaction, then they are parallel to each other. That's why they are not intersecting, is it? They are parallel. Parallel means they are like that. If this bends, the other one bends, is it? Like that. And last 3, the indifference curve never touches the axis. For our online student, kindly take a screenshot, or for our good friends, yeah, you can take a screenshot before I rub. You're excused. Examiner can, somebody is asking us here, how will now the examiner ask a question? Examiner can even ask you direct, actually, the characteristics of the indifference curve. Is it? The characteristics of the indifference curve. I need to check some of the questions. Like on May of 2019, thank you for that question. May of 2019, question 3A, the examiner asked, explain the differences between the cardinal approach and the ordinal approach to measuring utility, is it? 2, outline 4 limitation of cardinalist approach to measuring utility. You see? Let me also find the one that it's so direct to whatever you have just asked, but the examiner will just be direct. Right together. There is no any technicality in economics. So if you understand, you have already understood. Is it? Like this one. Okay, we are yet to go there. You have asked the question about the indifference curve. Explain 6 application of indifference curve analysis in an economy. Right together. Yes, we shall be talking about that. See? Outline the characteristics of indifference curve. See? So if you know that these are the characteristics, you shall be able to answer that question, is it? Have I answered your question? Yes, thank you. So, yes, Cadredo. Actually, I would advise you draw. Almost every question that you will be told to draw it. You see? You know it, so draw it. It will cost you nothing of you drawing this. You see, it's like that and that. You say this is commodity X, this is commodity Y, and draw like that. Even if you're not perfect enough, you shall take less than a minute, is it? To draw with a ruler like that. And you call it a diagrammatical representation of indifference curve. Like that. And then you say characteristics. So they do not intersect. Another question. Thank you. We have the answer.
So the graph then it shows like the consumption of one commodity increases the consumption of the other.
That's what we are going to say about the slope. The next thing, thank you. That's the next thing that we shall be talking about the slope. The slope of the indifference curve, as we are talking about how you can obtain it, shows the marginal rate of substitution of commodity X and commodity Y, meaning how willing are we deciding to consume this commodity in expense of the other commodity, because we said an indifference curve is a locus of a point shows the combination of two commodities that yield similar utility, means that we can substitute commodity X in respect to commodity Y. The slope of the indifference curve is the marginal rate of substitution. Oh, thank you. I like that, yes? Indifference curve. Remember, when you're talking about the production possibility frontier, we drew it like this. Is it? Okay, let me draw it here. The production possibility frontier, we draw it like that. Is it? This is convex. No, concave. Concave to the origin. This is convex. Then this shows this one shows the combination of two goods that yield similar utility. This shows the combination of two commodities when you have maximum rate, effective rate, and effectively utilized our resources. Is it? This one, we have said that they never touch the axis. This one touches the x-axis. Is it? Yes, yes. Also, he said what? This is convex. This is convex. This is concave to the origin. Is it? Yes, this measures the higher the difference curve, the higher the satisfaction, which is an unproperty in here. Are you together? Yes, thank you. Thank you for those questions. So the next thing that we shall be tackling is the slope of the indifference curve. The slope of the indifference curve. And when you're talking about the slope in respect to the good X and good Y, assuming you have commodity X and commodity Y here, you have an indifference curve like that. Remember, we usually draw a line, is it? And we touch, then we can have a slope there, is it? And so the slope here is usually equals to the change of y divided by the change of x. Remember, you can remember those, is it? Which is, I said, it shows the marginal rate of substitution, is it? Marginal rate of substitution of x and y. Marginal rate of substitution of x and y. Are you together? Or how are we deciding to substitute commodity x in respect to y, or commodity y in respect to y, which is also equal to marginal utility of x, right? No, marginal utility of y. Marginal utility of y divided by the marginal utility of x. That's the slope. The slope of the issue. MRIS is marginal rate of substitution. Marginal rate of substitution. So if the examiner can give you the marginal utility of y and x, you can be able to automatically give us the slope. Is it? We say it, the slope, where? The slope, it's always negative. So the slope is always negative. Always know that. Meaning that when you consume more of x, you shall consume less of y. Is it? When you consume more of y, you shall consume less of x. Yes. And like when it's positive means when you increase the commodity of x, it doesn't affect the other commodity. Are you together? Yes. So the next thing that I need us we discuss in our today's class is about the issue to do with the budget line. Budget line. Are we done with there? Because I will, okay, we can, I think we can do what? An lab here. We discuss about the budget line. Discuss about the budget line. And when you're talking about the issue to do with the budget line, or what you're talking about, this is also a locus of a point, whereby we are saying that when we have some money, right, probably we have 1,000. You see? Which combination can we have or can we buy in the respect to commodity X and commodity Y with the current market price of those commodities? Are you together? So it's a locus of a point whereby it shows the amount of the quantity that can be purchased of the two commodities with a given money at a given what? At a given market price. Right together. So it's a locus of a point. It's a locus of a point showing different combination is a locus of points that shows different combinations, that shows different combinations of two goods X and Y, of two goods X and Y, of two goods X and Y, and that can be bought with a different money, that can be bought, that can be bought with a given money, 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 income given the market prices of the commodities. Money income given the market price So we are saying that when you're talking about the issue to do with the budget train, that it's a locus of a point that shows the different combination of two goods, that is probably X and Y, that can be bought or that can borrow a given, that can be used to buy a given two goods X and Y that can be bought with a given, that can be bought with a given. With a given money income, given the market prices of the commodities. Is that occurs of a point that shows different combination of two goods, X and Y, that can be bought with a given money income, given the market prices of the commodities. So I can remember when we were talking about the introduction to economics. Do you remember that concept whereby we are talking about the issue to do with the choices, opportunity cost? And one aspect that we really talked about is about the resources, is it? And we say that the resources are limited. And that's why you cannot buy anything, anyhow, or at any price, is it? Yes. Meaning that when you're talking about the issue to do with the budget line of commodity X and commodity Y, the budget line looks like this. The budget line looks like this. This is the budget line. Are you together? The budget line. Meaning what? Meaning this. Meaning also it have a negative slope, is it? It have a negative slope. Meaning what? Meaning that if we increase the prices of what? Of commodity Y, then we shall consume less of its commodity. Are you together? Yes, yes. And vice versa. And vice versa. And vice versa. And vice versa. So the next thing that we shall be tackling is about the slope of the budget line. The slope. We have commodity X here and commodity Y here, this is 0. Assuming consumption, so that will be our income divided by the price of Y, and this shall be Y divided by PX, is it? How do we get our slope here? Slope, I believe, usually says it's the change of Y divided by the change of, meaning that it shall be Y divided by PY divided by Y divided by PX, is it? In short, we are saying it's a situation, the slope will be Y over PY times PX over Y, is it? Times, is it? Times we were doing the other way around, is it? This cancels this, meaning that the slope is PX over PY. So the price of PX over PY will be equal to the gradient or slope of budget rate, is it? Yes, and that's the issue to do with the slope of the budget rate. Meaning what? Even automatically now, we can say what? We can say something concerning the issue to do with what? The consumer equilibrium. of course, the consumer will be at equilibrium, whereby there is that equilibrium of the indifference curve and the budget line. Meaning that at this point, where the slope of the indifference curve will be equal to the slope of the budget line, that's where the consumer will consume, is it? And that's where the consumer equilibrium will arise. Meaning, at equilibrium, we shall say what? At equilibrium, MRIS, or marginal rate of substitution of X and Y, will be equal to the marginal utility of Y divided by the marginal utility of X, which will be equal to the price of X divided by the price of Y. Is that true? Yes. Thank you. Actually, that's where we are headed to. That's where we are headed to. Derivation of consumer equilibrium. Derivation of consumer equilibrium. Add onto this concept, when you're talking about the derivation of the consumer equilibrium, two conditions must be met. Two conditions must be met. Number one is that MRS, or it is a point whereby there is tangent. It's the tangent point between the BR and the ICS. It's the tangent point. The tangent point of budget line and indifference curve. Meaning it's a situation whereby MRIS of X and Y is equal to marginal utility of Y, marginal utility of Y divided by the marginal utility of X, is it? Which is equal to what? Which is equal to the PX divided by the PY. Sure. PX divided by the PY. That's the condition number one. That the consumer will be equilibrium, whereby his two levels of combination, you see, of goods with similar utility will be equal to the point that shows the combination given the combination of two goods that use a given money, is it? A point whereby we are saying that he is able to afford, is it? Right together. That's number one. What's number two? Number two is that the issue to do with the indifference curve should be convex from the origin. Is it? The indifference curve should be convex from the origin. If the examiner will ask you other conditions whereby it must be met for a consumer to be equilibrium, in the aspect to do with ordinalist theory, you can add these others, is it? You can say the indifference curve should not intersect. The indifference curve should have a negative slope, but these are the main ones. Right together? Yes. Meaning diagrammatically, it's more or less the same as this one, whereby this can be represented as the budget line. This can be represented as the indifference curve diagrammatically, because we say that the budget line is straight line. In this one, it is a curve. It's a convex graph, is it? Yeah, so you can also draw them diagrammatically here. I see they're down on right there. Yeah, okay. Yes. 0, you have commodity. X, you have commodity. Y. Indifference curve and BR. Meaning what? Meaning this. Meaning that the consumer will only consume at this point. Is it? At a point whereby there is a tangent between the budget line and the indifference curve. Look, the consumer cannot consume at this point. Why? Because this is unattainable to his budget. Is it? To his budget. As well as the consumer cannot consume there. Why? Because his level of satisfaction is low. Is it? Yes, there is no that prestige. So he cannot consume in here because his level of satisfaction is not yet met. Neither can he consume at this point because here it is unattainable in respect to his budget line. Right together. Is that understandable? Yes. So the next thing that we shall be tackling is the issue to do with the changes. To do with the changes. Changes or the effect of changes in income and consumer equilibrium. Effects. Changes in income to consumer equilibrium. Do you remember the issue that you were talking about the previous topic, whereby we were talking about the issue to do with the demand curve, shifts and movement? We said that movement along, it's caused by the price. Is it? What about the shift? Shift from this point to the other point. It's caused by all other factors other than the price. Remember, the same effect here. When we shall be talking about the issue to do with income here, income, I can remember it was number 2, is it? Income, there shall be a shift, is it? There shall be a shift. The budget line is our income, is it? It's whereby we are saying that we shall consume this particular kind of money in respect to the purchase of a certain commodity. So assuming we have what? We have this commodity X and commodity Y. We have our initial budget line there, like that. We have our BR0, IC0. If income increases, increase in income, there shall be a shift. Shift of the what? Of the budget line from BRO to this point to BR1 and a new indifference curve. The new indifference curve called IC1. So there shall be a shift to shift from BRO IC0 to BR1 IC1. Right together. Whereby we shall have a new equilibrium point. Is it? With a new equilibrium price. What about when the income reduces? It shall be there like that with the IC2 BR2. So it will shift from BR0 IC0 to BR2 IC2. together. By this shows an increase of the income. The other one, there is a decrease in the income. Actually, it's similar with the supply and the demand. You can remember those concepts, is it? Yes, yes. So the next thing that we shall be tackling about is the effects in the changes in price, effects, the changes in price on the consumer equilibrium, effects, in changes in price to consumer equilibrium, to consumer equilibrium. Remember, in our previous class, we said that there shall be movement. Is it? Movement around, not shifts. Is it? Yes. You have a nice phone. Nani ako na simu mzuri? Mtu mwenye ako na simu mzuri akuje tafadhali. Mwenye anaamini simu yake. Who trusts his or her phone? Come. Unaweza piga picha mzuri. I'll be sending those notes after now. Yes, come. One of you. Kwa ile group, sindio? Piga hapa hivi picha. Over to here. Or that page 100. So, it's clear. Right, it's clear. The effects of the changes in the price to the consumer equilibrium, I'll be sending notes, but I would love we use the one that that lady will send in the group. It's like this. There shall be a tilt. Right together. There shall be a tilt. A tilt into the budget line, assuming we have the issue to do with the price consumption curve. Price consumption curve. Whereby we have our initial BL0, IC0, IC1, BL1, IC2, BL2. Meaning what? Meaning that if we do what? If we increase the price of probably of the commodity called what? commodity called there is decrease in the prices. Decrease in prices generally. I can light one and then you shall light the others. Is it? If you know one, you the opposite of that, it's what? There'll be drift. Is it drift or tilt? Or tilt? Tilt of BR0 to decrease in price to BR1 at from IC0 to IC1. Those are the effects of the changes in price to consumers' equilibrium. We are saying that if we decrease the prices of X, if we decrease the prices of X, people will tend to this is X, is it? Oh, this is Y. This is X. So if we decrease the prices of X, is it? So people will consume more of commodity of X in expense of commodity of Y. The marginal rate of substitution, how people are willing to substitute X in respect to Y will be more willing, is it? Meaning that the budget train initially being here, the people will consume more of commodity X in expense of commodity Y, is it? That's what happens, is it? That if we decrease this commodity of X, if we decrease the commodity of X, holding Y constant, then people will tend to consume more of X in respect to Y. But we have not altered or we have not changed the income. The income is still constant, is it? That's why it's not moving. It's just tilting, is it? You see, it's not moving, it's just tilting or drifting. So the budget right now here, because now the commodity of X is now more achievable than Y, people will consume more of X in expense of Y, meaning that now people will consume more of X now from this point, is it? From this point of quantity of X to an increment of X, is it? Because they can afford to that point and decrease the consumption of Y from this point, is it, to this point. Is that clear? Is that understandable? Exactly, that's what happens, and vice versa. That's how, and vice versa, whereby we are saying that if we decrease the prices of Y, people will consume more of Y, you see, in expense of X, so forth. Is that clear? Is that clear? Yes, yes. Actually, we are almost done actually. The second last bit of this topic, we shall be talking about the issue to do with the applications. Is our online student understanding? Our online student can see Caro, Felicia Mora, Masi, Pauline, Omuru, Yvonne Mwende, Charles, Musa, Isaac. Yes. If you have a question, you can type there. And are we understanding? Because I can see Yvonne Mwende. Are we understanding? Yvonne Mwende. Are we understanding? So the last bit into this issue is the issue to do with yes, application. Yes. Thank you for that, Mwende. Thank you for that. So the last bit in here is about the application of indifference curve approach. Application of the difference curve approach. Application of indifference curve approach. And when you're talking about some of the application here is number one is to measure or to distinguish substitution effect and income effect. That's now number one, whereby we can apply the issue to do with the indifference curve is to distinguish between substitution effect. This is the substitution effect, or the effect of decrease of one price, holding the others constant, and income effect. This is the income effect. Right together? Yes. Two, to distinguish given good and inferior good. To distinguish given goods, inferior goods. Yes. Remember when you're talking about the inferior goods, people are consuming because they are poor, is it? If they can be given money, then they can do what? They can consume others. Then the next one is to examine different welfare effects, different government policies. To examine different welfare what? Welfare effects of different government policies. Welfare effects to different government policies, e.g. taxes, subsidies. Number four is the issue to do with in international economics. Relevant in international economics. That is the issue to do with the trade promotion or promotions. Issues to do with the trade promotions, the effects of free trade, the effects of free trade, and effects of free trade. The last three, number five, is the issue to do with the income demand curve. All indifference curve can be used to or can help in the derivation of edge curve. Relevant in the derivation of edge curve relevant in the derivation of the edge curve. What is an edge curve? It's a locus of a point. The locus of point that shows the combination of the issue to do what? It's a locus of point that shows the relationship. It's a locus of a point that shows the relationship between the income purchased, the quantities purchased, and total expenditure. The quantities purchased, and total expenditures. So locus of a point that shows the relationship between the quantities purchased and total expenditure. Diagrammatically, it can be drawn like this. Need to pick this of the issue to do with commodity X and commodity Y. Yes, you're saying that that's the edge curve. But we are saying that relevant in the derivation of the edge curve, whereby we are saying a situation whereby this is the edge curve or the income demand curve, such that we are saying that when you're consuming more of the commodity, you need more of the what? More of the income, or the more you consume a product, the more income that you need. And kindly check that the edge curve is not straight line, is it? Kindly, when you are drawing, the edge curve is not a straight line. All right, student, you can take a screenshot so as you can do the last bit of our today's class. The last bit of our today's class. Next time I will come with another register so as you can write our phone number here. Then we sign, is it? What's this? For the purpose of forward, is it? And why is I have not had any question. No one have asked me why edge curve is not straight. None have asked. Tomorrow we are, but Maureen, you're so fast. Oh, I'm sorry for that. Yes. Am I fast? Yes. Am I fast? Someone is saying that I'm fast. We shall try to lower what? To lower the speed. Is it? Yes. May I dictate something? May I dictate something why edge curve is not straight? Can I write this? Can I write this? Why edge curve is not straight? I'm dictating this. I will dictate this. I won't write it in the board. You say edge curve are not necessarily straight lines. You write that edge curve are not necessarily straight lines. Edge curve are not necessarily straight lines because the demand for some luxury goods, because the demand of some luxury goods may increase proportionately, more rapidly than incomes. I've said edge curves are not necessarily straight lines because the demand for some luxury goods may increase proportionately more rapidly than incomes, where else the demand for necessity, necessities may go proportionately less rapidly than income. Where else the demand for necessities may go proportionately less rapidly than incomes. That's the real thing, whereby if you increase your income, then your taste of luxury also increases. See? Yes, that's where you see somebody being employed, and then the next thing that they are thinking is to buy a car. Is it? Yes. Yes, and so forth. But the aspect of the necessities, they are not done what? They do not differ. Honorary student, kindly take a screenshot so as you can do the last bit of today's class. So the last bit of today's class is about something called a diagram that we shall draw here, known as the community welfare, or the economic welfare. The last bit of this topic is about the economic welfare, or generally known as Marsharian surplus. Marsharian surplus. This is the last bit into our today's class. And we say that economic welfare will be equals to consumer welfare welfare plus producer welfare together. Let me explain this before we draw and we write something about it. Pauline is asking me, I repeat the last bit of the sentence that I said. It's not in the note that I will be sending, so let me repeat for you and you say, it says that age curves are not necessarily straight lines because the demand for some luxury goods may increase proportionately more rapidly than income, or else the demand for necessities may go proportionately less rapidly than income. We have said that the last bit of our next 10 minutes, maximum of 10 minutes, will be about the Marshallian surplus, or the economic welfare. And I've said that economic welfare will be the sum total of the consumer welfare plus the producer welfare. What is consumer welfare? It's like this. If you will reason and you understand, it shall be so easy when you're writing it, is it? It's like this. You're going to buy a commodity, is it? You're going to buy a commodity. And according to your research, you come to realize that that commodity, probably a what? A vest or something, it's worth 1,000 Kenya shillings. Are you together? You're going to buy a certain commodity, then later realize that the market, or according to your research, you are ready to spend 1,000 Kenya shillings. Are you together? Then, when you go to the market, you later realize that the current market price is just 800 Kenya shillings. Right together. Meaning that you are prepared to spend 1,000, but you spent 800 Kenya shillings. Meaning that the difference, which is 200 shillings, is the consumer's surplus. Right together. Meaning that if I can draw it diagrammatically here, you see, the price and the commodity or the quantity is that you are willing to buy at 1,000, but the market equilibrium here was 800. You see? Meaning that this shall be your consumer surplus. Is that understandable? Yes, that's the consumer surplus. What about the producer's surplus? Assuming you are the producer of this shirt, is it? Yes, of this shirt. Then you are willing, or according to your research and your calculation and your profit and what have you, you're willing to buy or to sell this shirt at Kenyan shillings. This is the producer. You're willing to sell this shirt at 500 Kenyan shillings. Is it? 500 Kenyan. You're willing, or that's what your expectation that the consumers will buy from you. But you later realize that the shirt is 800 Kenyan shillings. Meaning that you have a surplus of 300 Kenyan shillings. So this surplus is called producer's surplus. Meaning that you are willing, is the quantity, you are willing to sell it at 500 Kenyan shillings. Is it? But the equilibrium is at 800. Meaning this is your producer's surplus. This is the consumer's surplus. Meaning the sum total of these, or both of them, it's the producer's surplus. Is it understandable? Yes? Yes, it is understandable. So, meaning that Yes. Yes. Yes, the sum of the two, thank you. The sum of the two, meaning that when you're talking about the economic welfare, it will be equals to 200 plus 300, which is equals to 500. Thank you for that. Wow, I like that. Are you together? Yes, yes. So you can diagrammatically draw them. And then we define them, and then that's all, is it? We call it a class. Meaning at this point, I've said this is the one that I've just said that this is the, thank you, the producers surplus. The other one, this is the consumers surplus, is it? So what's a consumer surplus? Consumer surplus definition yake ni delight. Consumer surplus is derived whenever consumer surplus is derived whenever the price a consumer actually pays, the price a consumer actually pays is less than they are, is less than they are, is less than they are prepared to pay. Prepared to pay. Is that true? Whatever we have just discussed, that you are willing to pay 1,000, but you end up paying 800. So you are willing to pay more, but you paid less. What about the producer surplus? Producer surplus. So is the additional private benefit. Producer surplus is the additional private benefit, additional private benefit to producers, additional private benefit to producers in terms of profit gained when, in terms of profit gained when, the price they receive, the price they receive, if the market is more, in the market is more, than the minimum they would, than the minimum they would be prepared to supply for. Be prepared to supply for. meaning that this price here, so they have received a price, which is more than the cost of production. Remember, in MA, we usually say that the cost of production, it is inclusion of the profit. Is it? Yes. Meaning that they have received more than. Yes. Any question? Any question? Any question? I think that's clear, is it? Yes. And that's the end of our third topic called consumers theory. So I'm wishing you all the best. Let's continue doing our revision.